Hey everyone, this is Jetpack Swords, a casual gaming podcast. We're talking about games, gaming, or whatever else we want to talk about. We're recording this on January 25th, 2023, which is the day of Xbox and Bethesda Developer Direct Showcase thingy. Did you all get a chance to watch it?
Yes, I watched the full thing beginning to end.
Negative. Didn't watch
it. It was very short, thankfully.
It was very organized.
Yeah, I was surprised they had something. I didn't see any news. I don't see a ton of gamer news, but I was surprised I didn't see any announcements or any buzz.
There was.
Well, they Go ahead, James.
I was just gonna say they didn't announce anything new except for one game, which was revealed and released same day today, which for fans of that company and genre is really cool for them.
What game?
Hi-Fi Rush.
Oh, the one you linked me. That's out?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, announced and released today.
I was going to say, I was, overall, I would say I would, if on a scale of 0 to 1 is whelmed, or 0 to 1 and 1 is whelmed and you could go above that, right? I would say I was a 1.05. So a little more than whelmed, but not blown away by any means, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think, to be fair, I think the reason it is a 1.05 instead of a 1 is because of Hi-Fi Rush. I thought that was a very nice surprise of just oh, hey, by the way, here's this game and it's available later today. And literally no one had heard of it before.
I think Microsoft has figured out how big of a winner that is. They've done it with Game Pass before where they're hey, we're announcing this big new thing and it's available right now.
Yeah, for sure.
At the same time, though, they still do the exact opposite of announce shit way too early.
Oh, they paired with Bethesda. So the kings of that.
Which actually, speaking of Bethesda, they called it the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, but oh my god, this made it so abundantly clear how fucked they were in terms of exclusives without buying Bethesda. 3 of the 5 games here were from Bethesda. And that's not even including Starfield, obviously, which is going to be later this year and it's going to have its own event, right? It's, oh my god, it's Bethesda just fucking putting Xbox on its back and carrying it in terms of exclusives at this point. It's absurd. Even if the Activision acquisition goes through, it's what's it gonna add? 2 compared to Bethesda adding fucking 4 or 5. I don't know. It's ridiculous. But yeah, Hi-Fi Rush. Let's talk about it. So for those who haven't seen it, it is, I think they called it a music action game is what they called it. It's definitely yeah. Which Packy, I already forgot the name of it, even though I was thinking of it. And you texted me
Necrodancer. It's a crazy name.
Yes,
it is exactly a very, very interesting name for a game that more or less introduced is also very cool. I'm not sure if they invented it, but they certainly popularized the concept of a rhythm-based combat game.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Hi-Fi Rush is. And yeah,
Hi-Fi Rush
that just came out that does that too. I don't think it's a roguelike. It looks like a story-driven action.
That is good.
Yeah, very much so. And they said it was kind of interesting because you could tell they were worried about alienating people because during the presentation about it, they were very explicitly the music will never get in your way and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So it was very much they didn't want to alienate people who don't give a shit about that. And just want to play because it's just a JRPG. That's what it is, right?
Yeah,
it's a JRPG.
It's very stylish and very cool art style. I think
you have to know where the gamer skill of the people who play those games are, and you have to cater to that. So you can introduce this really cool, unique, difficult concept.
They're very much you can mash if you want to, right? It's if you want to, just fucking mash away.
We know where you came from.
You're not doing optimal stuff. It's all good. That being said, I will probably play it. Because, well, Game Pass. I would never buy it, but Game Pass. Hell yeah. And more importantly, they're trying not to alienate the people who maybe just want a JRPG, right? Whereas, I would never play it without the rhythm aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
That is what interests me, because, I like music. I like to, just sing along or like tap my foot or whatever the fucking thing is, right? You know, I like listening to music, right? And so I'm very excited to play this game. And yeah, it literally came out of fucking nowhere. Let me actually retract that a little bit. I'm excited to play this game. I'm not very excited to play it. It looks pretty well made. Right?
It looks well made, and the dev is good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if either of you ever played the Evil Within games. I didn't finish them, but I've played a decent amount of both, and I mean, like, they're good games, like, definitely solid. So I'm glad they're getting to make something that's obviously a passion project. Like, they went from making a third-person horror survival psychology game to making this. So I don't know, it seems really cool.
Such a massive change of pace. So, like,
yeah, for sure.
And you're just going from like truly feels like dark to light, like horror, very like absolutely. You know, realistic. Just everything that comes with horror games, and then into this very, very flashy. Like that's what I think is going to be cool. In addition to the music concept, like it just looks like a game that is highly stylized, and the music is just going to add to kind of the ambiance of that. Yeah. I'm hopeful for that like Persona 5 effect, where it just really feels cool to play. I also assume that during those cutscenes,
and I think it will because it's. Go ahead, Peggy. Sorry.
I was just going to talk about mashing X through cutscenes because it's a JRPG. Yeah. I just wanted to get just be sure not to compliment it too much.
That's fair. But no, I think I agree with you because so like I think I've only played like 10 minutes of Crypt of the Necrodancer. Like I'm pretty sure I own it, and I've just only barely played, or maybe I played it at Doug's. Maybe
likely that because he is the one who introduced me to the game because he loves that game.
So. One of the things they showed when they were talking about Hi-Fi Rush today, which seemed really cool, is so, you know, the basic premise is like, it is an action game where you spam X and you beat up the baddies, right? And so you basically get a score and you get bonus points if you mash X with the rhythm of the song that's playing, right? That's the basic premise. And I feel like other games have done that not with music, right? Like other action games, you get bonuses for not spamming but pressing it at the right time, right? Like I'm not making that up.
Yeah, Devil May Cry. That's literally just Devil May Cry. Like you will beat Devil May Cry, but it's more about getting an optimal score. Like, you know, not just beating people, but beating them in a really cool way.
Which they do that exact same thing. Like they literally have the A through F rating. Exactly like Devil May Cry.
Okay, so it really is just the Devil May. Yeah, so now that you say it and looking at it, it's just the Devil May Cry system.
With music, right? Yes, with music, right? But so then take that and then, which is a good premise, right? Like give you music to basically incentivize an existing system, right? Which is excellent. I like that. And then they went the next step further, which I doubt Crypt of the Necrodancer does, but maybe it does. I don't know, because like I said, I've only played like 10 minutes, which is they were like, the entire environment, the entire game is built around the system, right? So like, you know, you have like hazards in the world, right? The thing that comes down, right? So the thing comes down and stomps with the beat of the song that's playing, right? Which I think is really cool. So it's not just combat, right? Like it's not just hitting X and then like you see the thing and you whatever, right? It's also like literally as you're going through the story and the world, and you're just like, dealing with the world, doing the platformy aspects, I guess you could call it, of the game. Those also are in sync with the music, which I think is going to be really cool, and I'm excited to play it and try it out.
Yeah, looking at it more and talking through that particular part, I really think it's more Devil May Cry with music layered, like music worked into every aspect of the game. Because now, like, especially the score system, how the combat, they emphasize that the combat is probably not going to beat you. That's very, very different than like some of the other, like the rhythm combat of Crypt of the Necro, Mancer. They, like, you can definitely lose and very, very quickly. Whereas this seems much more, it's all about just being stylish and giving you a cool vibe, which.
So I think if I had to summarize that game, I would say it looks fun. And that's what's most important, right?
Definitely looks fun.
It looks fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think that's enough to probably say about that. It's music and it looks fun. So I'm excited. So there are 4 other things showed, which I'll let you all pick what you want to talk about next. Minecraft Legends, Redfall, Forza Motorsport, and Elder Scrolls Online. Do any of those you all feel particularly passionate about? James, I would expect you to want to talk about Redfall, given it's Arcane.
Yes. I think it looks really cool. Obviously, it's got Arcane's classic art style where things are a little exaggerated and like kind of looks like a painting, which they've had through Dishonored, Prey, all their other games. I don't remember. This is Arcane Austin, I think, and I don't remember what they specifically did, if that's the main Arcane studio or not. I guess I can look it up. But yeah, Arcane. It is a single player or like up to I think 4-person open world co-op shooter that takes place in a small town that's been overtaken by like a vampire group with cultists and stuff too. It's got like loot elements where you grab weapons and stuff out of the environment, just like every other looting game ever, every other RPG. But it looks really cool. It's got a really cool art style, and it's Arcane, like so. It's definitely going to have like immersive sim,
right? Like, yeah,
it's going to have immersive sim elements along with like the shooting and RPG stuff. I think it seems like something that's like right up their alley to make, and I think it looks really cool. And I think they showed off a surprisingly decent amount of gameplay for it, for a relatively small show, which is what today was. So.
I was going to say, yeah, like as a whole, so the entire thing was like 45 minutes. And honestly, I feel like it was a well-spent 45 minutes for the most part, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was a decent amount of gameplay, and the stuff that wasn't gameplay was still like relatively interesting, and it was a good show. Like I'm glad it was 45 minutes and not an hour or any longer than that, right? And yeah, no, good amount of gameplay for most of the games. Actually, most of the games had a good amount of gameplay shown.
Yeah, I would say so.
Hi-Fi Rush definitely did, and definitely Redfall. So I have mixed feelings about Redfall. To be fair, preemptively, I could never get into Dishonored or Prey.
Oh, missing out.
I know. I've tried Dishonored twice, and yeah, I just can't get into it. And I think Prey, I don't think I couldn't not get into, but it was like it was the classic case of like you're playing in, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is all right or whatever, and then something comes up and you just never
lose the momentum.
Yeah, and it's not because I didn't dislike Prey, it's just because something came up and I just never got back to playing Prey. But so I think as a whole, Redfall looks really fun, right?
Yeah,
like I think the premise looks fun, the theming, like pseudo, it's not gothic, right? But it is vampires, right? And like the atmosphere, right? The atmosphere they're building seems interesting and fun, and like I fucking love loot, right? Like I love loot. I'm a loot whore, and so like that aspect of it seems great. I worry it's a game that playing by yourself will get boring very quickly, and so therefore like better to play with friends, right? Which it is co-op, like you said. The downside though is apparently, and I didn't know this until I was reading some stuff today, the way the co-op works is there is a host, and only the host gets mission progress, and everyone else keeps XP and loot, but they don't get mission progress, which is kind of lame.
That's god awful.
Games do that.
And so like I'm so, like I said, I'm just mixed, right? Like it looks fun, right? Like I'm like, that looks like it'd be fun to play, but I also feel like I would get bored of it quickly playing by myself, and I'm not necessarily convinced I can get friends to play it. Thankfully, Game Pass helps with that, but it's still a challenge. And yeah, even getting friends to play it kind of sucks that only one person keeps mission progress or world state. I think, however you want to talk about it, right? But I mean, yeah, the abilities look cool. The guns look standard, arcane gun shooting style, right? Like,
yeah, it ain't
as smooth as Call of Duty or whatever, but that's okay. Like it's not supposed to be. It would be a problem if it was almost. So that's Arcane. Unless anyone else has anything to say about it.
I was just going to say real quick, since I brought it up, Arcane Austin is the newer of the two studios, was the Splinter one. Arcane Leon is the one that has made all the other ones. And then Austin specifically are the ones that made Prey.
Who made
Prey was theirs as an offshoot.
Who made Deathloop?
And who's making Redfall?
Deathloop was the main studio.
Okay.
Austin's the one making Redfall.
Yeah.
So this will be Austin's second game, like, for themselves. Because before Dishonored 2, or I guess with Dishonored 2, that was everything before that they were together and making projects. And then Prey was Austin. Deathloop was the main studio in France. And then Redfall was Austin also. So yeah, I think it looks cool. I'm excited for it. I like Arcane. I couldn't get into Deathloop, but like I can see how good it is. It's just I cannot get into it, which makes me mad.
Yeah, I completely forgot about Deathloop. I had also tried Deathloop, got past the tutorial or whatever, and I was just like, meh, I don't know. Like I was like, I appreciate that this is like I appreciate what this is. It looks good, feels good, but like, meh, I don't want to play this.
Right? But I'll have to give it a shot another time. But yeah.
So yeah, that's Redfall. So then, Packy, do you have a preference between Minecraft Legends, Forza, and ESO?
Yeah, I just want to talk about what I think was a really consumer-friendly move by ESO to make all of their DLC free. I feel like it was really smart to, kind of invite in players, and sometimes people get burned by that. Sometimes people invest, they want to try out a game, they want to throw some money, maybe at trying something new, even though they're never going to fucking play it. And sometimes these players can be left a little burned by these moves, but ultimately, brings in more people, and I think it's going to be great for everyone.
I do think, I get where you're going with this, but I also just want to say, I believe it is temporarily free for everybody.
Oh, really?
I am reading it.
It's still a really good
reading
deal,
it
because it's almost all of the content, and there's a ton of ESO content.
I'm sure.
Which ESO's fine. Like, it's
been out for
fine
what?
For as far as MMOs go.
5+ years now?
It's been out for a while. But yeah,
all
of the content.
I think it's at least 5 or 6 years.
Oh, I'll look it up.
Yeah, I think 2 of the major expansions are still not on that, but I think they said it was temporarily free. I don't think it was a universal blanket free for forever.
I've got it pulled up. So ZeniMax Online Studios also announced starting today and for a limited time, a free trial of Elder Scrolls Online Plus, which will make all past chapters.
That makes sense.
Excluding the current one, actually. So
it's the current one and then the new one they announced are not included.
Yes. And past DLC available to any players with the Elder Scrolls Online base game, including those playing through Game Pass.
You're still not going to play
That being said, my $10 to get the current expansion was not entirely wasted.
Thrown into the void.
Yeah.
There's no way, because it's expansion content. I'm sure you're not even going to make it there in the first, however many hours of gameplay.
He's not gonna play.
Yeah, if he installs it, I will be impressed. If he launches it, I'll be shocked.
Hey, I installed it when I bought it. All right? It's there.
God. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
You have 8 trillion games.
Yeah.
All of them better than this one.
Well, so actually, what I found interesting is they seem to, one of the things they stated was basically like, if you like Elder Scrolls, is like, if you like Skyrim or you like, Oblivion or Morrowind, like, come play ESO. You'll feel right at home. And
it's
you know
specifically
what?
The combat.
They're right, because from what I remember of it, the combat is ass.
Yeah, without all the amazing story.
That it was
I'm
all
just
the
gonna
other
say,
games.
Personally, I have never understood complaints about the combat, because I've played games with legitimately bad combat.
Mm-hmm.
There's legitimately bad where it does not function, and then there's just mediocre. It's you hit something and it takes damage, which is fine. ESO is not great specifically, but I mean, I will say, to counter what you all are saying, it has a ton of voice acting. It has a ton of Elder Scrolls world building, which is what maybe not all Elder Scrolls fans play it for, because speaking from personal just poll of me and my brothers, they played the games for just playing a game. Like, they did not care about anything beyond that. Me, I'm a huge Elder Scrolls fan, and I love the universe and the setting. And I mean, a ton of voice acting, so they actually put a lot of work into it. All the quests are vaguely different, even the side ones. It does have a lot of work put into it. It makes sense because it's the flagship ZeniMax product.
Well, and I agree.
Not Bethesda, but
I agree with
ZeniMax.
you. That's why I want to play it. Is exactly those reasons, right?
It is one of 2 MMOs that I've been able to play without wanting to shoot myself. So,
the content and the quality of the content in that game is supposedly really good. right? Like well-written quests, well-written stories.
Yeah.
Like exactly like you said, universe world building, good voice acting for the characters, right? Like that is why I bought it initially, and that is why I'm looking forward to playing it. And I think you're right? Like I am a little hard on the combat, and it is not you're right. It is not terrible. It is not
I've played
broken. It's not bad.
Where it's bad.
It's just there's so much. It's just there's a lot better out there.
Sure.
Particularly today. It's dated, right? That's what it is. It is the exact same combat as it was in Morrowind.
You are not going to.
So
no, it's not the exact same as Morrowind, because Morrowind is chance based. You have a chance to hit.
That's fair.
Oblivion and Skyrim, when you hit. I will say that, because I cannot play Morrowind just by being
So
Morrowind.
It's the same as Oblivion, right? Which is still like what 2006 or 4 or something, right?
Not,
like
it was a launch title for the 360.
Also,
but so yes, it's not terrible. It's just old, and there's much better.
It is
things
very
out
serviceable. And also, you're not going to get another game.
I would say serviceable, not
You're not going to get
yes.
another game with that level of everything else that makes Bethesda games unique with better combat.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
No, and that's why I bought it. That's why I'm actually going to play it, despite what
me and Jacob jump in the
doesn't believe.
You definitely aren't going to play it. I don't understand why we were entertaining that notion. But I will say I made a presumption. I assumed because it was an MMO, and MMOs, because of like the systems that you have to write story for, typically it seemed an impossible task. If they actually have really good story, that seems like an incredible deal.
Obviously a lot of it is going to be like just MMO basic storytelling, where it's, but legitimately the game does have a vaguely similar dialogue system to Skyrim. It's like definitely like a little shortened, because it's, they got to cater to a trillion people.
Of course.
But I mean, it has voice acting for like almost everything. It's got big set piece moments. You have an entire continent of content to explore. I mean, it has all of Tamriel, which sounds really like nerdy and stupid, but like that's a ton of stuff. Because when you look at all the other Elder Scrolls games, they focus on one continent each. Like each time they release one of the mainline games. This right now, I think, has all of them or almost all of them. I can't remember exactly where they are. And every expansion basically has another one. And yeah, they're going to still be like MMO style, not the exact same depth and complexity as like Skyrim or Oblivion or Fallout or whatever. But I mean, again, it's one of 2 MMOs that I've been able to play. So to me, that's significant. Yeah.
Well, no, and like I was saying, like I started out with, like they made a very explicit point of saying, if you like Skyrim or Morrowind or Oblivion, you should play this, because it's not the same whatever, right? No, it's a little watered down, right? But like it is Elder Scrolls, right? Like that it is. The MMO aspect is in a way kind of like an afterthought, honestly.
When you play it, personally,
the way I'm going to be playing it, I think the MMO aspect is an afterthought. I think it is just a live service Elder Scrolls game, right? Like that's what it is. Yeah. And so that happens to get an expansion and new content every year.
Which I think that's cool on its own.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah. And so speaking of the new expansion and new content every year, that's obviously what they talked about today. The new expansion is going to be called Necrom, and you're actually going back to where Morrowind took place, which is Elder Scrolls 3, and then probably more importantly, in my opinion, but probably less importantly in your opinion, James, is adding a new class.
I mean, it seems like it's a class that looks really cool, just based like on like thematically. They said like arcane eldritch knowledge, like that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so not new content, but obviously new areas to explore, going back to Elder Scrolls 3 and a new class. And so, if you're playing ESO regularly, it looks pretty okay. It looks pretty good for, again, standard, like kind of watered down Elder Scrolls, but a new batch of content, coming this year, which is great. And if you're not, but you're interested in it, like I said, if you've played Skyrim or you've played Oblivion, like go give ESO a shot, right?
It's on Game Pass.
I got
and the base game itself,
the base version's on Game Pass. They have a free trial,
play, other than the expansions.
And even the expansions, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, like they go on sale very frequently for very, very cheap.
Yeah,
so
they really do.
Go give ESO a shot if you're interested in it. So I think we'll talk about next. I think we'll talk about Forza next, because it's quite frankly not very interesting. And it's not to say that I'm not excited for the game. I just think
I think it's what we talked about, though. We literally talked about that, like, the next motorsport game was going to be the push for the technology. Like, it always is.
Yeah.
And I think that's what
that's exactly
holds up to what we had talked about. Also, they said
that's why it's not exciting.
Cars. Holy cow! That is so many cars in a single game. I can't even imagine.
It is a lot. Yeah. Yes, the summary for anyone who hasn't seen it is Forza Motorsport is coming out this year. It doesn't have an exact release date. Probably means the end of this year, probably fallish, right? Forza Motorsport is it is their track racing game as opposed to Horizon, which is their arcadey racing game. And so Forza Motorsport in particular very much focuses on like the very classic, like, cars are beautiful, the scenery is beautiful, the like background is kind of meh, but like the tracks itself and all of that are like, they look fantastic, always runs great. And Forza Motorsport looks like, this one doesn't even have a number. I think they're basically relaunching it, rebooting it or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't hear a number.
Exactly like that. It looks like a racing game on tracks that looks beautiful.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what it is. To be fair, there were some cool things, right? Like, they obviously said they redid the entire sound for like Dolby Atmos and Windows Sonic, and like
updated and redid the weather system too. For like track conditions,
exactly.
Cool.
And obviously they changed the physics of like the actual driving, and like one of the things that I thought was cool which like is one of those minor details, right? But it's still cool in my opinion, is they said like the dirt and the wear that the cars get, right?
I thought that
is now going to be more accurate, right? Like, it's going to be, the dirt is going to accumulate on the car where it would actually accumulate on the car, right?
Yeah,
like, they're not just going to do it across the entire thing.
Zones and stuff.
Exactly.
Like, that's cool technology.
It's great, right? And so I look forward to playing it. It is exactly what we thought it was going to be, and I'm excited for it. But also, it's not very interesting because it's exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's going to be a racing game that pushes the boundaries of the hardware, it will look gorgeous and it will run smoothly. And it's kind of boring because it's going to be well made, right? Like, in a way, right? Like, it's just Turn 10 does what they do very well at this point. They've been doing it for a long time and they're very good at it. And so that it's going to be what it's going to be. And I'm excited for it. So that leaves Minecraft Legends, which is
What is that? I'd not heard of that.
Interesting.
So I didn't know what it was. I had heard about it, but I didn't know what it was until this showcase. It is an action strategy game using the Minecraft visuals and like build style essentially. And if you're doing single player, you're basically just trying to stop the piglins, which are like the evil pigmen or whatever from the Nether, I think, in the game. I haven't played Minecraft in a really long time. And so like they'll build bases and expand or whatever, and you're, classic strategy stuff, trying to build up and defeat them. But I mean, it looks really cool. It looks like they said, an action strategy
game. It actually does. Yeah. No, it looks
strategy game.
Is it
I was surprised.
It sounds like it halfway between an RTS and an action game. So you kind of RTS it while you actually still get to do manual combat?
Like run around.
Oh, okay.
And they said that the other big like pillar of it they're working on is it's also multiplayer, where the piglin threat stays in the game, but there'll be another team of builders. And did they say, what was it, 4-on-4? Is that what they said?
Yeah, it's 4-on-4. Which if I'm correct, that's the only thing they talked about today was multiplayer. Was
pretty
PvP.
Much, yeah. Which it looked cool. I guess
looked
if you
cool.
especially if you like
I was actually surprised.
It terrifies me. I don't want to go online and get beaten by 9-year-olds. Do you know how much they've played that game and that combat? And you'll not just lose; you'll lose badly.
Yeah, you'll lose.
Well, no, but so that's kind of the interesting.
Their gamer
thing
tag will
like,
have the last 2 numbers of their birth year, and it'll be from the 2000s.
It'll be 12.
It'll be 2012.
But
it looked good.
It looked good.
As someone who
and
likes
so,
strategy
one
games.
of the things that was interesting, like in terms of like to true Minecraft fashion, right? Like the worlds are procedurally generated, right? So like imagine an RTS where the map is procedurally generated every time. Like that's
Age of Empires 4 does that also. I like Age of Empires 4 a lot.
Like I did not expect to, be as interested in this game as I
know. Same.
Right? Like,
this just seems like
and part of it is because have you
guys ever played Castle Wars in Minecraft?
I know what it is. I don't.
It seems
sadly,
remarkably
yes.
You probably played when I did. It seems remarkably like a just way more fleshed out version of that concept.
Which it probably is. Let's be honest.
It seems like they've smartened up. Dungeons were this way too.
They probably
they just smartened up, and they, instead of like Warcraft 3 where people took those mods and made their own games, they were just like, all right, internally we're just gonna make them.
I mean, that's what
definitely
does.
They definitely pay attention to the marketplace, right? Like the Minecraft marketplace. I guarantee you, they are looking at what is most successful there, 100%. And yeah, like they're gonna obviously try and capitalize on that.
Tons of money, so it'll be polished.
But one of the things that was interesting,
and it's also like built off an engine that they've refined and doesn't seem that terribly difficult to execute on. And they just put time and people on it, and
they do reuse. It is pretty interesting. Like, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly about Minecraft Dungeons, right? Like, they said they prototyped the worlds for Minecraft Dungeons in Minecraft, and then were able to take that and then port that into Dungeons. And like, I'm sure Legends was very similar. I'm sure they were able to, like you said, use a basically existing engine or whatever and go off that. One of the things that I thought was interesting or appealing is the play how you want to aspect. James, you mentioned the piglins. They stay in the PvP 4v4 game mode. And so it's very much like, if you want to just go like PvE, but still want to like play with your friends or whatever, then like go beat up the piglins while your friend goes and builds up your base, while your other one goes and scouts the enemy base or whatever, right? Like, it just like, it seems very flexible in terms of letting you play the way you want to play and still play with friends and like still have like a semi-competitive, but I'm going to take it back. It's not competitive at all, but still like still a versus mode, but not like a heavily competitive versus mode. And so I'm surprisingly looking forward to this game. I thought I wouldn't be interested at all, and I actually am looking forward to playing it on April 18th is when this comes out.
That's pretty soon.
Yeah, which actually going through the other games. So obviously Hi-Fi Rush was today. Redfall is May 2nd. Elder Scrolls Online is June 20th. And then Forza Motorsport is probably early fall into summer-ish. So yeah, it's a decent spread of games coming out this year, because I'm sure obviously after Forza Motorsport will be Starfield, right? So solid like spread of games, not bunching them up too hard or whatever.
Have currently said that Starfield is coming out first half 2023. Now obviously Bethesda has a long track record of pushing back. I'm hoping that at the showcase they do for it, which is if I can figure out, but I'm hoping they will do their showcase and then be like, and it's coming out in like 2 weeks or a month or even 2 months. Like, that would still be so much sooner.
They're gonna pull a Hi-Fi Rush day of. Let's go.
I mean, that would be amazing. But yeah, let's see. I don't see an exact date, but there's going to be a Starfield, and I think also a Bethesda one, which I don't know if the Bethesda one is the Starfield one or is a separate one. But yeah, currently the game is slated for first half of this year, so hopefully.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows what'll happen? Maybe it'll come out. Maybe it'll get pushed back.
It'll probably.
So yeah, that was the showcase today. Like I said, I was mildly above-whelmed. I was not blown away. I was mildly above-whelmed. And again, reiterating, I think it was a good format. It was a good pace. It was well structured. It wasn't like, I don't know. It wasn't a giant waste of time. So that's always a plus. So that being said, we can go ahead and wrap up with a, what are you guys playing these days? Packy, I know you got a little indie darling you want to talk about.
2 huge games that I wanted to gush about, and I'm going to talk about them in 45 seconds because I beat Ragnarok since the last time I was here, which I adored. Though I can't really talk about it because you're here and you haven't beaten it. Most of what I want to talk about is the story, because it's so friggin' good. When I thought it,
so good.
I didn't think, that was my biggest apprehension coming into the game. A, I thought it was going to get spoiled for me, and B, I thought they didn't have enough time to, go as deep into characters the way they did last time. And they just did that with more characters.
I'm going to mute my speakers, and you two
No,
can talk about
we're not
it,
going that far.
and then
We're
just
not going
like do an emoji.
I'll just say
Okay. Let's just say.
What I'll say about the story is everyone should be writing notes, because it's the best thing to do with story in video games is flesh out characters, because you get so much time with them via the gameplay. Definitely. And you can have so much dialogue happening as you play.
Scenes? Are there more?
I was actually disappointed. I went out of my way to go try and listen for more of them. There are objectively less of that. There's just way more story to kind of chew on overall in the games, and more quests to explore characters.
The boat scenes were good.
Some of the best parts of the game.
Like, I've bitched so much about riding horses in games, and I've said Red Dead is okay because you at least get to hear the story build up from the characters talking in the background. But honestly, God of War, the 2016 or whenever the fuck it came
18.
out, right? The reboot, the initial reboot, 18. The boat scenes in that, normally I would bitch about that in any other game. Like, why the fuck are you making me sit through this slow ass fucking boat to get to this other part of land or whatever? And in that game, it was beautiful because the dialogue was beautiful. The voice acting was so good. The story was great. It was fantastic. And so it's a little disappointing, actually, to hear that Ragnarok has less of that. But I'm glad that they made up for it elsewhere.
Yeah, what is in there is still very, very good. I think ultimately what that comes down to is you could crowdfund millions of dollars to get Kratos and Mimir to have a 10-hour conversation for people to listen to as a podcast or something like that, because they're just two incredibly well voice acted characters who both have a very, very deep and rich background in the lore that they come from. So you're able to draw so many stories from both, and they're just really interesting to see play off of each other. It shows in both games, and they're fantastic. I'm really curious where the series go now that Ragnarok wraps up that
for sure.
north side of the story. I'd have to imagine it means Mimir is departing from the story, which is a shame. It's made everything better. It is a wonderful game. I definitely still hate traversal, even though they tried their best to make it better. And I imagine a lot of people like the changes because they made it way more diverse. He's still slow and lumbering his own fuck. And I feel like it's really annoying to go, and you can't fast travel. They still limit fast travel, I think, a lot. That is the only thing I complain about in the entire game. They figured out how to they added new enemy types, which everybody asked for. They didn't just add new bosses. They made really, really good bosses. Actually, we were talking about that earlier, games that do high-level combat along with really, really high-level storytelling. I think God of War is probably one of the only ones that I think do both at a really, really high level. The combat's really deep and varied.
Yeah, it is upsetting that you can't get more of both.
Well, it took them 8 years to make these two games. And they spent gobloads of money doing it.
That's fair.
So
give me God of War combat in ESO, and I'd be happy.
Yeah, that's all. Simple ask.
That's what I want. Give me that.
It's incredibly difficult.
Yeah, it's really simple. Come on.
Just do millions and millions of dollars worth of mocap, and then make a combat system that works around it.
I mean, they've got the money. It's ZeniMax.
Yeah, true. But it was crazy.
Was there anything else, or was that
the other one I want to gush about is, have you guys heard of it? You probably haven't heard of the game Against the Storm.
Yeah, I bought it today in the Steam sale.
You made an excellent choice. It is
it's
so good.
I bought 4 games today in the Steam sale, and that's the one I've played the most so far today.
Love that game.
It's good.
I love this podcast. I love it.
It's a good expansion on a roguelike.
You need to buy Northgard while it's on sale.
I need to. I've had it on a platform
it's
before.
It's $6.
They've given it away a couple times at this point. I need to. I might have it on a different platform, but I do want to get it on PC because it's a game I think that would be best enjoyed on PC. Let me check. I probably have it sitting somewhere in Epic.
Shiro makes good.
I think Epic gave it away, but while I'm looking for that,
they did. I think
there's a non-zero chance that it was.
They've given away a lot. I'm pretty diligent about picking those up. But there's so many reasons to like Against the Storm. There seems like a lot of depth. I'm really excited to get play more and get deep into it.
It's for anybody who doesn't know, the reason Pacquiao likes it especially is because it's a roguelike, and I like it because it's a city builder, and it's both, and it's early access. It's a small indie title, but it's got a lot of polish to it already, and it's good. It's very charming. So I really like the art style and the people. It's humans, lizard people, beavers, and then eventually harpies, and they're the citizens of your city. It's really cool. I'm not great at it. I've only survived in one town so far, but
what difficulty did you
really
do it
cool.
on?
I think I'm just doing the regular, like the normal.
Yeah, it's designed in a way as you unlock stuff, it'll get easier to like upgrade the. It has multiple different types of progression. You'll see. I just started my first one and I saved it, and I haven't like really dug into it yet. Where at the middle one you start corruption, which is like a growing mechanic that just decays everything. They have so many great ways of introducing randomness while also making it always doable, and particularly with city builders, the one complaint and why they focus so much on like the early game is there's always something to do. There's never really like maintenance mode. It's like you always have to be making a decision and like reallocate it.
Yeah.
It's mental crack. It is so good.
And I'll say this is not the first city builder I've played that has the card system that it has. I've played one other one previously, which was a much less polished, but a much wider scope game. And it was like not fantasy, it was realistic. And this game does that card drawing system much better, in my opinion, than the other one. Because like you said, it does not soft lock you. I've not seen a part so far. I've not played a ton. I only played a couple hours. But I never feel like I'm going to get soft locked on a map based on the cards I get. The other game, I have definitely gotten soft or hard locked on, depending on what cards the game decides to give you.
Yeah, it's very good about...
not to shit on the other game, but...
It's so hard to do, right? Especially with randomness. And when you want to vary up like win conditions. Because I will say, you can't soft lock yourself. You can screw yourself incredibly hard. I just finished one where like I barely eked it out. Because like, yeah, essentially it's like, all right, well, I'm going to do this card that like makes, producing this one resource really, really hard. And then you get, essentially missions called orders that like help you get the credit to eventually complete that settlement. And it was like 3 in a row that were like, you just had to have that thing. But it's still very good about like giving you another way to win. It's so well done.
For sure.
And I've also played several city builders. They're on the lower end of like the different genres that I've been playing recently that I've really, really liked. Definitely, of course, below roguelikes. It was more interesting to me that I was like, how in the world could you combine those two concepts and have a game that isn't just overly chaotic to the point of not being fun, or like isn't actually truly varied the way that you'd expect roguelikes to do.
No, it definitely feels fleshed out for both sides. That was my worry too. I was like, either the city building is going to suck, which like it definitely is not I would almost not call it a city builder, because you're not just like making a city in the sense of like, making it look good and making like that kind of design. It definitely serves the gameplay more, which is fine. Like your cities are never going to look like aesthetically great just because you're like trying to optimize for whatever your like situation is. At least so far, that's what it seems like.
It's definitely difficult.
I think they've done a good job.
Oh, fantastic! And that's the thing. And one of the biggest reasons I want to talk about. I thought you guys. I'm so glad that you found this game. But what?
Bro, if it's a city builder,
this is why I love these podcasts. The fact that James is like, I bought it today.
But I think what makes them remarkable outside of the concept is the developer is fantastic. That's most of the reviews. Is people are like, it is crazy. And I went through their patch notes. They update every 2 weeks like clockwork, and it is not a little baby update of like we fixed a couple bugs or we made like this graphical improvement. Like it is mechanics being introduced every single time. Always expanding, always incredibly clear. Like they have a direct one of the.
I mean, that's the way to do early access, right? Like that is what early access should be, right? Like that
roadmap is right, very visible on the front page of the game when you launch it to go like see what is coming out. Oh, they're so good, and nobody's gonna care because like this is such a neat. I'm glad you like it because I think this roguelike city builder is such a niche appeal because
let's see, it's got
because you have city builder, but you take out the relax.
It's got almost 6,000. Overwhelmingly positive reviews of all time, and it came out in November. And so if you think of all the people that have not reviewed it but have played it, like that's a great ratio for a very small game.
For an indie game, that's fantastic.
No, that means that this is well known by indie game standards.
Let me look. I want to see where they are on.
Because believe me, Packy, there's games I play where there are less than 500 reviews for them.
Yeah, I think
regularly.
There's one game. Okay, they're definitely doing well. They have 2,500 players right now, so I'm worried about nothing.
Yeah, they're
damn. Good
I've played games where there's 70 concurrent players.
Right now, they're doing good.
And do you all want to repeat the name of the game because I forgot it, and so therefore a listener probably forgot to?
Against the Storm.
The Storm.
It's very,
very fun.
I'm definitely playing more. Yeah, I did 2 hours.
I made a note of it so I can link to it in the patch in the podcast notes. So So when you were saying things, Packy, about maybe I had the other game, James, what was the other game, by the way, that you're talking about? That package.
Northgard,
said I
made by Shiro Games. It's a real-time 4X game, which you don't see a ton of real-time 4X games. It feels like Civilization, but real-time, but on a much smaller scale. But it's really cool. And they're the studio made the new Dune game, which is really good too. Which, if the Dune game's on sale, you should also buy that, because that game's really good and gets regular updates that are big, and I definitely recommend that game. Also,
the Dune game?
Northgard's still getting the Dune Spice Wars.
Dune Spice Wars, that's right. Yeah, it's on Game Pass.
They're the same game, just like Dune. The Dune one's newer, and obviously it's Dune.
Spice Wars? Yeah, it's on Game Pass.
Oh, hell yeah. Dude, Game Pass is so good.
Let me do Northgard.
Dune Spice Wars is super good. Northgard actually just got another update, and it's been a while, but they're still updating. It's really cool. Yeah, it's $9 right now, and I'm buying it right
now. I played Civ 6. Civ 6 is such a fun game I never finished, because I could never.
Civ 6 is good.
The games are so incredibly long.
They can be, yeah.
At least the one I don't know. I did one of the large map, bunch of computers.
Well, then yeah, it's gonna take forever.
Yeah, it's like every time, and I would always do it that way, and I'd get like to hour 10 or 11 of that one game, and I'd be like, I don't think I'm on. I think in another 7 hours I lose. So I'm not sure I want to finish this one out.
I've played Civ 3 through 6, including a lot of the spinoffs, and I love all of them. Yeah, I love my Civilization.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, James, as you were talking about Northgard, and Packy's like, oh, I think I might have that, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, I should go claim my Epic free game of the week or whatever. So I launched the Epic Game Store, and then two things actually stuck out to me. So one, we talked about Hi-Fi Rush. It launched today. Apparently, the game's only $30. I'm like, good,
interesting.
Nice.
That's a $30 game, and like we should see more of that, right? Mm-hmm. Like there should be more of that style and quality and length of game for $30. Like I feel like that's really great, and so I thought that was really cool to see. Again, also Game Pass, just go subscribe to Game Pass. Like that's really what you should do. And then secondly, not to derail us very long, I'm just curious, have either of you heard of this upcoming game this year called The Lord of the Rings Return to Moria?
No.
I thought you were going to say Gollum, which has been delayed a bunch.
Well, so I knew about that one. I didn't know about this one. And obviously they'll probably show more at some point. Like I said, I literally just was in the Epic Game Store, and it was in like the front page of like most wishlisted or whatever.
Survival crafting game.
Exactly, survival crafting in yeah, dude. I'm like, hell yeah!
That's one of the four games I bought today. Was a survival crafting game.
And so cool. Literally know nothing about it, but I'm like, that actually looks and sounds pretty cool. Like survival craft game in the Lord of the Rings universe, like Middle Earth. I'm excited. I actually like with seeing very little of it and just hearing the premise. I'm like, that is a cool premise, and so I hope we can talk about that later this year, right? Like, so all that being said, those were the two things that stuck out to me in the Epic Game Store. Is A, Hi-Fi Rush was $30, and B, this Return to Moria game looks kind of cool, survival crafting game in Middle Earth. So James, what have you been playing besides some of Against the Storm and some of Northgard? ?
No, I haven't played Northgard in a while, but I follow it because I think it's cool. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is what I've mostly been playing. Today specifically, I finally had a chance to play on my computer, which is why I may have got the Steam Base Builder sale, which like that's my kind of game, like to a T basically. So I got some stuff on that. But yeah, Assassin's Creed Valhalla still playing. Still
which is a good question. Are you playing Against the Storm on your Steam Deck that you got, or are you playing on your computer?
No, I have not, but I probably might, because it's, I can't remember if it's verified or just playable. It is playable, so I could. But yeah, I'm just playing it on the PC. But yeah, the 4 things I bought for anybody that cares. I got Age of Darkness Final Stand, which is a strategy game where you have to build up your base and defend against increasingly strong waves of like nightmare creatures. It's all right. I've only played like an hour and a half of it. Against the Storm is the one I've played the most today. Super good. I got a game called Solace, like SOLACE crafting, which I think is a one-man developed distance-based procedural survival RPG, essentially. So you know how most games do scaling in RPGs based on like either how leveled you are or like where you go on the map specifically, like the actual locations. This little tiny indie game does scaling based on how far away you are from the spawn, and it's procedurally generated, so the world is infinite.
Oh, that makes sense.
And
that's cool. Yeah.
I literally have only played 30 minutes of it. I just jumped in. It's definitely rough around the edges, if not all the way through, because it's like very, very, very indie. But it's got like full base building. You can set up kind of like miniature towns, kind of like Terraria, where you put in buildings and then traders will come populate them. And then, like I said, it's distance based, so it's kind of like Valheim too, where you can travel by foot, but eventually unlock the ability to build like teleporters, so you can like further bound out and get further out. And then the way the resource system works is near the spawn, it's all like tier 0 building materials. And then the further out you go, you get higher tiers. So that's the whole point that's like driving you. So yeah, it seems really interesting. Definitely very rough because again, it's super small, but I'm definitely interested in like playing it and trying to build some bases and stuff. And then the last thing I bought, which I just bought before we started, in a vain attempt to try to get Jacob and Jordy, my friends, to play more Stravelcraft games with me, is a game called Green Hell, which is a Amazon jungle survival craft game with very high production values, but it's also very realistic. Like, while you're walking around, if you're like in waist deep water, you'll get leeches on you, and you have to get them off of you, or else you'll like get diseases. And when you build items, you have to like build them, and it's very, very, very in depth. And I'm hoping I can get somebody to play with me, but it's on sale, and I was like, sure, like I don't care. So yeah, it's very high production value though. It's gorgeous, like super detailed and very pretty. And I'm gonna try to play. I've only played like 25 minutes, but it seems cool. I'm ready to get attacked by a jaguar or something.
That is cool. So as you were talking about that, I was browsing Steam to go look at these things that you were talking about, and then at the same time, just end up on obviously the Steam store landing page. Again, see Hi-Fi Rush because it came out today. Just kind of notable, again, first day, but it is currently at 76 positive reviews and 0 negative reviews. People seem to really fucking like Hi-Fi Rush. Again,
it's good. It's great.
There's only a couple hours.
I was gonna say the earliest reviews are always going to be some of the most positive.
But also, it's so. These are also Steam reviews, though, right? Like, it's not like people who got it with Game Pass and they just launched it because why the fuck not? And then like are therefore more inclined to like it because they didn't pay for it or whatever.
I'd say it's the opposite effect.
These are people that spent $30 on
people who spent money
you think because
are more likely to like the concept
as
opposed to Game Pass is just whoever or a critic who like you just gave them the game because you wanted them to review it because you have a big site.
Fair. So yeah, I don't know. Like,
I still think it's gonna be good.
A few hours, but still, like, I mean, no, I think it looks like we said earlier, it just looks fun, right? Like, it just looks fun, and that's what's most important. In terms of what I've been playing. I've actually not been playing a super duper ton lately. I've actually been trying to binge some Netflix before a sub ends. But that being said, did watch Arcane, and holy shit, Arcane is so good.
You jumped on that train so late.
I know. I'm well
now
aware.
Now you're going to be all by yourself when
and
you're inspired to jump into solo queue and League, and people call you slurs. Like, if you'd played it when Arcane came, if you'd watched Arcane when it came out, you could have talked in all chat with other people who had watched Arcane and enjoyed it as you all were being called slurs. Now you're just by yourself.
Oh, I see. James, have you watched Arcane?
No, I've heard it's very good, but I don't have any personal interest in the IP.
There's no connection to League of Legends. Might as well not even.
No, I know, but
let me tell you,
visually,
it doesn't fucking matter. Go watch it. It's so good.
It's very, very
so good. Like literally, it surpassed all expectations I had, and like I watched it with Susie, and like Susie also clearly gives zero fucking shits about the League of Legends universe, and Susie also enjoyed it, right? Like not as much as me, but like still very much enjoyed it. Like it is one of the better shows I have ever watched. Like I knew it was going to be good, and it was exceptional. It was exceptional.
It is a story with really cool characters. The world building is definitely like all that is secondary. I think that's why it's so universally liked. Is just as some very new archetype, very cool characters.
World is second to the characters. Okay,
cool.
But so other like in terms of the actual games, you know, I mentioned beat the main story of Metro Exodus. I told you that James last week, and beat the Hail 2 Kernels DLC. I've started Sam's Story DLC, haven't gone very far in it, and just been, because I've been watching a lot of Netflix, I've been playing a lot of Hearthstone.
God, you've been playing a lot of Hearthstone.
Hearthstone is...
I think every time I open my PC and I see Battle.net, you are on Hearthstone.
It's good. It's fun. There's so much to do. Like, the standard is fun. And I think it's fun because I'm bad at it, right? Like, I think the people who've played like 100 hours or whatever, I don't think they like the game. I think they just keep playing it, but they don't like it. But because I'm fucking bad at it and I'm new to it, it's really fun, right? Like, you go to the Reddit or whatever and people bitch and moan. They're like, oh, they didn't patch standard and it's garbage because the meta's broken. And I'm like, just don't care about the meta. Just do whatever the fuck you want and be bad at the game and play against other people who are bad at the game. And it's fun, right? And then like I texted you, Paggy, or I messaged you on Battle. Like I won my first game of Battlegrounds in it, which is like the auto battler teamfight tactics-esque thing with 8-player. And like historically, like I was like, man, I suck at this. Like, because Hearthstone has like fucking, I don't know, they have so many game modes in there now, right? And a number of them are very much like build on the fly, right? Like the standard is trading card game, you open packs, you whatever, right? But like they have other game modes where like it doesn't matter at all what cards you have. It's completely just like you start the thing and you build up your whatever as you go. And Battlegrounds is one of those things. And I quite frankly was just like, man, I suck at all of these, right? Like I tend to lose a lot of them. And like I had a streak where like I won 2 Battleground games within like, it was like not 2 in a row, but like maybe there was only 2 losses in between. I don't know. Like it was great. And again, those were like 8 people, right? So it's not like it's, wow, you had a 50% win rate. Good job. Like it was, there was 8 people. I still won like 2 out of 4. And then like that was fun. And then like won some of the arenas, which is also like build the deck as you go and like kind of more competitive. Like you have to actually literally like buy in, quote unquote, to that, and like still manage to like have a pretty good streak there. And so I've just been having a ton of fun playing Hearthstone. Like again, not the trading card game, right? Well, that's not even true. The trading card game aspect is also fun, but like there's just so much. Like it's literally like 3 or 4 games. Like it's ridiculous, and it's just free, and it's just
kids
good.
At home. I hope you're paying attention. This is how they get you. This is how the addiction starts. You're like the bright, fresh new face at the crack house. Like everybody else here looks so sad. Like this stuff is great. I love it. In 3 months, you've dropped $100 on card packs, screaming because you didn't get the right card. The cats are sprinting from the room. This is your future.
So Packy raises a very good point, and let me state
did
something
I really?
For all the kids at home.
So.
No, you did, because like if you actually, like I said, if you want to play the meta, from what I've seen, like obviously it is stupidly expensive. Do not do that. Do not play the meta in Hearthstone, because you will end up blowing hundreds of dollars like a fucking idiot. Do not do that. Go play whatever you want, or play the game modes that don't require you to have cards, right? Because there's a lot of them. There is a lot of those game modes. Go play those. They're all super fun. Like Battlegrounds, for example, the monetization is like 99% cosmetics, right? Like it's great. Just don't fucking do it and just play the game because it's super fun. Or if you want to, don't listen to me and blow $20 on the Battlegrounds pass. I don't give a shit. Like, go do what you want to do, right? But like, well, do what you want to do, but don't play a trading card game, because they're like notoriously predative. Like even more so than normal. Like there's a lot of predative games out there, but like trading card games are like super predative. Predatory.
Predative is not a word.
Yeah. Way to correct me earlier, guys.
It's very simple, right? Look for any system that requires you to put money in for not a guaranteed result, and that is a game system, like any kind of system that is going to be bad for you. It preys on a particular part of our brain.
But trading card games take that, and then they take that to the extreme. Like they just fucking
everybody does it now.
Like it's nasty. It's so
CS:GO
awful.
with its skins. Card games have just been doing it the longest. I think that's where they really like.
Well, and as a result, they do it so well as a result.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just so ingrained as like the accepted standard. We will eventually get there with the 2Ks of the world and like cosmetic loot boxes and stuff like that. Eventually that will be so normative people won't like comment on it anymore. Like trading card games. I guess trading card games also have a good system physically to go buy cards.
So actually as we wrap up, there's two other things I thought of, and I'll just say them real quick. There's not much to talk about. One is, as we talked about, Arcane. I don't know if you all saw it, but Riot Games, fell prey to a social engineering attack, which is essentially, it probably means like someone tricked an employee at Riot. And the result of that is somebody has all of the source code for League of Legends and an old anti-cheat they have, and Valorant. Not Valorant, Teamfight Tactics. And so I just thought that was kind of interesting and noteworthy. And Riot did the exact thing they should do, and they told them to go fuck themselves and said, "We will not pay you $10 million." Because that's what they were like. They were like, "We'll pay you $10 million." Yeah. And Riot said, "Fuck you, we're not doing that."
It doesn't matter.
So
it certainly doesn't $10 million matter.
So
it's not like
it doesn't $10 million matter. And the bigger thing is, it never makes sense for Riot to do that in that scenario, because they have no promise, they have no guarantee that these clearly already unethical people will actually honor that promise and not release the source code anyways. Like, even if they could guarantee that the 10 million ensures it never gets leaked, it's still not worth $10 million. But again, you can't even guarantee it. So like, why even pay fucking?
If he had asked for 50 grand, he gets it instantly, I bet. Like instantaneously, and then they just go, because it's all about like, what is the value of having to like, the main thing is going to be people using reverse engineering your code to try and cheat, right? Because stealing the code to create a new game doesn't matter.
They were very upfront about that. They were very upfront about like, this has the possibility of making cheats more effective, right? And so, we'll see what happens with this. I think the person posted it for bid for auction online. And so who knows? It'll be interesting if League of Legends goes open source.
This guy's an idiot.
Yeah. I thought it was, like I said, it's just noteworthy, right? Like, there's not much to talk about. It's still just kind of noteworthy, though. Like, that's a big event, right? Like, having the entire source code of a game stolen. So the other kind of noteworthy thing is Activision Blizzard and NetEase have officially parted ways, which means that Activision Blizzard no longer can release games in China, which is...
Oh, I saw that. I saw it about WoW. Oh, I didn't realize it was all Activision Blizzard games. Jesus Christ. Dude, that sucks so bad.
For those who don't know, like, the very uneducated understanding I have is essentially like the CCP, the Communist whatever party of China. Basically, like, they have laws that say you cannot publish a game in China unless you're a Chinese company, or actually, no, it's literally unless you're a Chinese company. And so
you cannot hold any trademark of any significance if you are not a Chinese company in China. That is their whole system.
Yes. And so what happens is you basically have to get a Chinese company to, for all intents and purposes, sponsor you.
Yes.
Like, honestly, that's kind of what it is. It's kind of just like a sponsor, right? And so NetEase was Blizzard's, Activision Blizzard's sponsor in China for the longest time. And so that's how they had WoW. And obviously NetEase helped them make Diablo Immortal. But so it's just kind of interesting because, like, I feel like Blizzard probably put a lot of time and money into that partnership, right? Like, in terms of capturing that market. And so the fact that that's just like, poof, gone away, honestly, maybe for the better, right? Like, so
I think it's just a lot.
Not for them, but maybe for the better for us.
I don't think it's going to have like massive impacts on like the development of the game.
Probably not.
It's more, it's just something that happens with Chinese companies that they, they just hold so much leverage in being able to, you need them to be able to sell your product in China, and they know that.
Exactly. Right. Like, and that's exactly why the government crafted the legislation that way, is it gives, like, in that scenario, like, NetEase has literally 100% of the power.
Yeah, right? They can set an absurd standard for how much
so,
profit sharing you do, and make you take very little to the point where it's not worth your effort anymore, which is probably where Blizzard ended up.
Yeah, probably.
But it really sucks for Chinese players.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a 20-year-old game, and some of the people who play WoW, like, it is beyond a game.
Yeah. WoW especially. WoW especially. That I imagine that really stings.
Yeah, they've been posting about it a lot on our WoW. Like, it brought me back to our WoW to read about. I didn't realize it was actually tied to that particular event. I just knew that the servers were going down and people were like actually in tears, and it was just really, it was breaking up online communities, which really, really sucks to hear.
That is definitely shit. Yeah, the way and phrasing it like that. Yeah, I imagine if literally, like we've talked about it, WoW means a lot to both of us, and if they just one day were like, nope, bye, and it'd be one thing if the game shut down. It's another to know that the game is shutting down for you and not everyone else. Like that definitely sucks more.
And, to know that it was likely preventable in some way, shape, or form. And I'm sure people will find a way around it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, for sure. So anyways, just two kind of semi-notable pieces of news to wrap it up. And I'll catch you all next week, except Packy. Packy, you're gone next week, right?
Yeah, unfortunately so. Becoming more of a guest.
James and I will just have to do another duo.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Well, enjoy your all's nights. I gotta go beat some booty in
right.
WoW. Toodles.
Peace.
See ya.